Otto Skorzeny's story does not begin on a battlefield, in a secret camp, or in the high offices of the SS. It begins in Vienna, a city collapsing under the weight of a dying empire. Born on July 12, 1908, Otto was raised in a middle-class Austrian family proud of its military traditions and conservative values. His father, a civil engineer, believed in discipline, order, and education, three things that would shape Otto's personality and future career. Growing up in a nation stripped of its imperial glory after World War I, Otto witnessed the instability, humiliation, and fierce nationalism that swept across Austria. Like many young men of his generation, he felt the sting of defeat and the bitterness of a shrinking homeland. In this unstable world, the seeds of radical politics found fertile ground. Otto entered the Vienna University of Technology to study mechanical engineering. There he joined the Marco Germania Burschenschaft, a nationalist student fraternity known for academic discipline, fencing duels, and political extremism. It was during one of these duels that he received the dramatic facial scar that would become his trademark. This wasn't just a wound. In Central European student culture, it was a badge of bravery, a visible sign of masculinity and fearlessness. The Austria of the 1930s was a nation divided between fascists, monarchists, social democrats, and communists. And as the political chaos intensified, Otto aligned himself firmly with the Austrian Nazi movement. He joined the Austrian NSDAP in 1931, years before the party was banned. He marched in pro-German rallies, participated in paramilitary drills, and dreamed of a unified Germanic empire. When the Austrian government outlawed the Nazi Party in 1933, Otto briefly fled to Germany. He returned only after the Anschluss in 1938, the annexation of Austria by Nazi Germany. For Skorzeny, this was not a political event. It was a personal triumph, the fulfillment of a nationalist dream. He gained immediate prestige and joined the SS, the elite paramilitary force that would define his legacy. Initially, he trained with the Leibstandarte SS Adolf Hitler, the bodyguard regiment responsible for protecting the Führer. Though not yet a frontline soldier, Otto showed natural talent in engineering, logistics, and unconventional tactics. The SS assigned him to special training units, where he honed skills in explosives, sabotage, and irregular warfare, skills that would later make him invaluable. In 1941, Skorzeny got his first taste of war on the Eastern Front. Assigned to the 2nd SS Panzer Division Das Reich, he took part in the invasion of the Soviet Union, Operation Barbarossa. For a man who had lived his life in classrooms, workshops, and political circles, the brutality of the Eastern Front was a shock. But he adapted quickly. His physical size, 6'4", broad-shouldered, towering, made him an imposing figure among the troops. During fighting near Moscow, shrapnel tore into his back, leaving him severely wounded. The injury ended his frontline career, but opened a new pathway. While recovering in Berlin, he was transferred to the Waffen-SS Special Missions Unit. Here, Otto Skorzeny found his true calling. He proposed ideas, dozens of them, about sabotage units, behind-the-lines operatives, airborne assaults, and irregular warfare teams modeled after British commandos. Many officers dismissed him, but one man did not: Heinrich Himmler. Himmler saw value in Skorzeny's unconventional thinking. And so, in 1943, Otto was put in command of the newly created Waffen-SS Special Operations Division. He now had direct access to the highest levels of power, including Adolf Hitler himself. The stage was set, and soon Otto Skorzeny would perform the mission that changed his life forever, turning him from an obscure officer into the most famous commando in Nazi Germany. That mission was the rescue of Benito Mussolini, a mission Hitler believed only one man could accomplish, and that man was Otto Skorzeny. By the summer of 1943, Nazi Germany was collapsing on every front. North Africa was lost, Sicily had fallen, Allied bombers were pounding German cities. Worst of all for Hitler, Italy, Germany's most important ally, had turned against him.
Benito Mussolini, the father of Italian fascism, had been arrested by his own Grand Council and replaced by Marshal
Pietro Badoglio, who immediately began negotiating secretly with the Allies. For Hitler, this was more than betrayal, it was humiliation, and he wanted Mussolini back, alive. But Mussolini had vanished. The Italians hid him in remote locations, moving him constantly, guarded by elite carabinieri units. Hitler needed someone brilliant, daring, and unpredictable, someone who could find Mussolini and pull off a rescue that seemed impossible. He chose Otto Skorzeny. Skorzeny accepted the mission with icy calm. He knew failure wasn't an option. For weeks, German intelligence desperately searched for clues. Mussolini had been held in Sardinia, then moved again. It was Skorzeny who made a key breakthrough. Through intercepted radio communications, aerial reconnaissance, and decoded messages, he identified the final location, Hotel Campo Imperatore, a remote mountain lodge on the Gran Sasso in central Italy. The site was nearly impregnable. It sat atop a mountain plateau, accessible only by a cable car station guarded by heavily armed Italian soldiers. No roads, no paths, no way to approach unseen. Unless you came from the sky. Skorzeny proposed using gliders, silent, light, and deadly, to land directly on the plateau. It was a suicidal idea. A single misjudgment, a gust of wind, or a hidden rock could smash the gliders into pieces. But Skorzeny insisted it was the only way. On September 12, 1943, Operation Oak began. 10 DFS-230 gliders were released from tow planes thousands of feet above the Apennines. They descended silently, slicing through the mountain air. Skorzeny rode in the lead glider, guiding the formation with a Mac strapped to his leg, praying that the plateau was wide enough for landing. Then came the moment. The plateau rose beneath them, uneven, rocky, dangerously narrow. The gliders hit hard, bouncing violently. Skorzeny's glider crashed into the ground, snapping its landing skid. But miraculously, all 10 gliders survived. The Italians were stunned. Before they could react, Skorzeny and German paratroopers stormed the lodge. In seconds, the guards were surrounded. No shots were fired. Mussolini was found in his room, pale, exhausted, and confused.
Skorzeny burst through the door. "Il Duce," he said, "I have come to rescue you on the orders of Adolf Hitler." Mussolini stared at him in disbelief, then relief. "I knew my friend Hitler would not abandon me," he whispered. The extraction was even more dangerous. A tiny Faisler Fi-156 Storch aircraft, designed for short landings, arrived to take Mussolini off the mountain. But the aircraft was never meant to take off from such a short plateau with 2 large men aboard. Skorzeny, enormous and heavy, insisted he fly with Mussolini, even though it pushed the plane over its weight limit. The pilot protested. Skorzeny ignored him and wedged himself inside. The plane began its takeoff run, bouncing, struggling, inches from disaster. At the cliff's edge, it finally lifted, clearing the mountaintop by a few feet. It soared into the sky. Mussolini was safe. Hitler was ecstatic. The Nazi propaganda machine exploded with the story. Newspapers proclaimed Skorzeny the most dangerous man in Europe. Posters celebrated him as the hero who had struck back against Italian treachery. Hitler awarded him the Knight's Cross and elevated him to near-mythic status. For Skorzeny, the Mussolini rescue was more than a military success. It was his transformation into a legend, a symbol of Nazi daring, loyalty, and audacity. But the mission came with consequences. Skorzeny believed the propaganda too much. He began to see himself not as a soldier, but as a man capable of reshaping history from the shadows. Hitler noticed this confidence and soon gave him a new mission, one even stranger and more controversial.
A mission that would turn Skorzeny from a hero into a phantom. A mission known as Operation Grafe. By late 1944, Germany was on the brink of collapse. The Allies had liberated Paris, crossed the German border, and were preparing to push into the industrial heartlands of the Reich. Hitler, refusing to surrender, devised a desperate counterattack, a massive offensive through the Ardennes forest, meant to split the Allied armies and recapture Antwerp. The plan became known as the Battle of the Bulge. But Hitler had a unique role in mind for Otto Skorzeny, one inspired by Amuya.
American fixation on sabotage and espionage. Skorzeny was ordered to create a special unit of English-speaking soldiers who would infiltrate Allied lines dressed in American uniforms using captured American vehicles, jeeps, and Shermans. Their mission: sabotage bridges, switch road signs, spread false orders, cut communications, and create total confusion behind enemy lines. It was called Operation Grafe. Skorzeny gathered 2,500 men, but only a few spoke fluent English. Many could barely pronounce the letter R correctly, let alone imitate American slang. Still, the operation moved forward. Captured American equipment was repainted with German markings hidden beneath removable camouflage. On December 16, 1944, as the Battle of the Bulge erupted, Skorzeny's disguised units crossed into enemy territory. Some succeeded in causing chaos, moving road signs, redirecting tanks the wrong way, and spreading rumors of assassins hunting Eisenhower. The panic in the U.S. Army was enormous. American troops began interrogating each other with trivia questions about baseball teams and state capitals. Even General Omar Bradley was detained. The psychological success was undeniable, but militarily, Operation Grafe achieved little. Most of Skorzeny's men were captured or killed. Those caught in U.S. uniforms were tried as spies and executed. Under international law, wearing the enemy's uniform during combat was a war crime. Skorzeny knew what awaited him. When the war ended, he surrendered to the Americans voluntarily. He was taken to the Dachau military tribunal, charged with ordering his men to fight in enemy uniforms. The death penalty loomed. But Skorzeny was prepared. Acting as his own lawyer, he argued that his men used American uniforms only for infiltration, not for actual combat, a claim disputed by many, supported by a few. The turning point came when British and American officers testified that Allied commandos had used similar tactics earlier in the war. The tribunal acquitted him. But freedom didn't come. He was held in prison during denazification proceedings. Then, in 1948, Otto Skorzeny simply walked out. According to witnesses, he put on an American uniform, howled forged papers, and strolled past the guards. Some claimed the guards helped him. Others whispered that U.S. intelligence wanted him alive. The truth remains murky. What is certain is this: within days, Otto Skorzeny vanished. And when he resurfaced, he was no longer a soldier. He was something else entirely: a mercenary, a weapons broker, a spy, a man whose services were for sale to regimes, dictatorships, and intelligence agencies across the world. The legend of Europe's most dangerous man was entering a new and darker chapter. After his escape, Skorzeny fled to Spain, where Francisco Franco welcomed former Nazis with open arms. In Madrid, Skorzeny reinvented himself as a businessman. He founded engineering companies, gained wealth through construction contracts, and mingled with the Spanish elite. But this was only the surface. Behind the scenes, he became a key figure in a secret network of ex-SS officers, arms dealers, former Nazi scientists, and Cold War intelligence operatives. Egypt hired him to train soldiers and reorganize its security services under President Gamal Abdel Nasser. Argentina used him as a military advisor. Fascist groups across Europe considered him a patron. Intelligence agencies, including the CIA, BND, and reportedly even Eastern Bloc services, sought information from him. But the strangest chapter came from Israel. In the early 1960s, Mossad launched Operation Damocles, targeting former Nazi scientists helping Egypt build missiles. According to several declassified sources, Mossad approached Skorzeny in Madrid. They offered him a deal: remove his name from Mossad's kill list in exchange for information. Shockingly, Skorzeny agreed. He allegedly provided names, addresses, and details of former SS engineers working in Egypt. Some reports claim he even participated in personal meetings with Mossad agents. Fact or legend, this revelation remains one of the most bizarre twists in post-war intelligence history. The idea that Hitler's favorite commando worked with the State of Israel. Throughout the 1950s and 60s, Skorzeny lived multiple lives at once: mercenary advisor, arms broker, political fixer, intelligence contact. His memoir authors, published in 1950, portrayed him as a professional soldier who avoided ideology. Many historians disagreed, but his legend only grew. In the 1970s, cancer began consuming his body. He underwent surgery in 1973, but continued to appear in public, still tall, still scarred, still carrying the aura of a man who survived half a dozen lives. On July 5, 1975, Otto Skorzeny died in Madrid at the age of 67. He was cremated and buried in Vienna. At his funeral, former SS comrades gave him the banned Nazi salute. Even in death, he remained controversial. Otto Skorzeny's life was a chain of contradictions: Nazi commando, international mercenary, Cold War operative, possible Mossad collaborator, and shadow diplomat. He lived in the spaces between nations, ideologies, and wars. To some, he was a hero of daring missions. To others, a ruthless opportunist. To historians, he remains one of the most enigmatic figures of the 20th century. What is certain is this: from the mountaintops of Gran Sasso to the deserts of Egypt, from the forests of the Ardennes to the secret safe houses of Madrid, Otto Skorzeny lived a life shaped by war, espionage, and survival. He was a soldier who became a symbol, a commando who became a myth, and a man whose shadow touched every corner of the Cold War. If you enjoyed this story, give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you never miss new historical investigations. Thank you for watching. Until next time.